Sunday, April 20th, new life. Easter calls me to new life. Easter is the dawning of hope and the promise of resurrection and new life. Today I celebrate the victory of divine love, new life, and the resilience of my overcoming nature. Everything is made new through the dynamic power and glory of the Christ within me. I am freed from fear and limitation. I release them into the radiant light of the risen Christ. I am lifted up with the resurrection of Easter into a new awareness of life. My heart and soul are transformed from the living spiritual truth that nothing is impossible with God. My heart feels full as I embrace the power and the grace of this new life. The message of Easter blesses me today and throughout all the seasons of renewal. I rise in the knowledge that life never ends. As I celebrate the glory of Easter, Christ in me is risen today. And from John 11, verse 25, I am the resurrection and the life. Sunday, April 20th, Easter.
Thank you, Patty. Today, I get the chance and the honor of speaking on Easter Sunday. This is the day that is recorded as the day of resurrection of the crucified man, Jesus. There are so many stories after, during, and included in the Gospels about what happened on that day. Most of the synoptic Gospels are pretty close to one another when it comes to what happened before Jesus was taken down from the cross. But there is where things start getting a little jumbled. Scholars are still debating over what 3 days meant. Was he supposedly raised after 3 days, or was he risen on the third day? If you start adding up all these days, supposedly the judgment, the trial, supposedly, the whipping and the scourging and carrying of the cross and so forth, that supposedly happened on this day. I shouldn't say supposedly. I should say reportedly happened on these days. We look at all this and we say to ourselves, well, so if that started on Friday, and then Friday came and went, and then Saturday, the Sabbath, came and went, and then Sunday started, then that's the third day, on the third day. So some people say he was risen after 3 days. Some say he was risen on the third day. We're still debating this after all these years. No one really has a good grasp on it because the Gospels don't have a good grasp on it. There's different ways of looking things. So I want to go back just for a moment to what happened according to Mark, the first gospel, the first good news story that was written, and see how that actually ends for them on that day, for all of them. The women came down to prepare his body. That's just me talking right now, not the gospel. The women came down to prepare his body afterward, to wrap him in linen and oils and unguents and so forth is required by the Jewish law. And they got there, and it says very early on the first day of the week. Okay, according to that, would that be a Monday? No, that's our reckoning of the first day of the week. For them, this would be the day after Passover. It would be on a Sunday. The first day of the week, and when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. This is the women, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome. And they had been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance?" Because there's supposed to be a big stone there in front of the tomb. And when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. And as they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has been raised, and he is not here. Look, here is the place they laid him. But go tell his disciples and Peter." I find that strange. His disciples and Peter, as though Peter were separate from the disciples. "Go tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you." So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. The end. That's the end of that gospel. Later on, centuries later, in the 1st or 2nd century CE, there was a shorter ending of Mark and there was a longer ending of Mark added to it. But I wanted to leave it right there where it was written and what was left of it at that point. No one had added an ending. They decided to add an ending. Someone decided this later on because it didn't jibe well with the other gospels. Well, the other gospels have an ending where the commandment was given to go, seek out the disciples and tell them what happened and where they can meet Jesus. This one didn't have that on the ending, so somebody said, well, to make it like the other gospels, we better add an ending. Isn't that just like human beings? To want everything to be straightened out and level and so forth, and no question marks in your head, just exclamation points inside your head. Got it, got it, got it. Ooh, yeah. That's the way we like to view life. We don't like to view life with one of the gospels making us go, wait a minute, huh? That's not ending like the others. What's going on there? We don't like those questions. We like answers all through our life. So that's what happened on that. The gospel states by Peter that they were so afraid they just ran away afterward. They didn't go tell anyone anything. They were just so shocked and amazed. I can understand that feeling of shock and amazement. I'm sure you can too. But that's the way the original gospel reads, that they left, they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid, which is also very human. I'm leaving here. I'm going to forget this ever happened. I'm not going to look back. Nope. That's the end of that. And that's the way the first gospel ends. Like I said, we've had these arguments over what really happened. Did it really happen? Is it important that it happened? And I'm here on this day, this beautiful day, where in many religions and many countries, they greet one another on this day with the statement in their own language, "He is risen," to give you an idea of what happened to someone else long ago, over 2,000 years ago. Now, in unity, we look at that a little differently, of course, and we see that as being something that happened within ourselves, but we still don't get to a point where it's happening to us. We still see it as though it's an outer viewing. And even in unity, we do that. We sort of give rise to the idea just for a little bit, where each year we are able to say, now view that as though it's happening inside of you, the risen Christ inside of you. But what we don't spend any time on is the tomb, the darkness, the waiting, the silence, the nothingness of the tomb. None of us do. I'm not looking to blame anyone for this. It's just human nature. None of us go there, want to go there. But if we really do want the Christ in us to be risen, we have to also experience the tomb within ourselves. We have to get to that point where we're willing for the 3 days, the third day, whatever you might look at it as, to happen for us. Marianne Williamson talks about that in an article. See if I can pull that up here. It seems to have disappeared on me. Hold on, please. She has written many books, as you all know. If you don't know who Marianne Williamson is, anybody here not know who Marianne Williamson is? She is a writer. She is very enamored and deeply loves A Course in Miracles. She has written many books on this. She wrote A Return to Love, which many people have read and really enjoy. And that's her experience to a great degree on what happened with her. Who she was, as we like to say sometimes, what it was, what happened, and what it's like now. And that's basically the message that she tells in this book, A Return to Love. What she was like before, what happened to her, and what it's like now. Now this has been over many decades that this has taken place. She now has even run for president twice. Marianne Williamson. She was on the stage right there as a participant in the debates for the Democratic nomination for president. Yes, she's a liberal in her understanding of politics, but politics is simply a way for her that she is trying to awaken people to who they truly are and what's going on in their life. In this article, that I'm quoting from, she brings up many points that are just so good. This article is taken from and this is part of the enlightened perspectives of Marianne Williamson in her newest book, Evolving Out of Darkness. That's what I'm talking about being in the tomb, the darkness, and evolving out of it. She states in this article that she's this conversation that she's having with this other person, and it's all written down here for us, this interview. She says, well, let me preface a little bit of what she says, and then I'll get to the quote that really matters. She states that in Darwinism, the statement is made that every species reaches a point where it's in some sort of process that it needs to overcome. it must either evolve or become extinct. And that's the only choices it really has in Darwinism, to look at it that way. The survival of the species requires that it change in some way, evolve, mutate in order for it to succeed. Otherwise, then there's all there is extinction. Just everyone dies off, and that's the end of that. I know that there are certain species of birds, remembering Hawaii, thank you, Dave, to remember this, that there are certain birds that can only access the honeyed pollen, the syrup inside of flowers, if their beaks are long enough and curved. Now, there are brothers and sisters in this species. Some of them don't have this ability. This is an evolved process to drink out of this one particular flower. That's only one example. Now just think of how many thousands of years these flowers just waited, just did their own thing with no birds to access this. No birds could get down inside where this honeyed pollen was, couldn't get there. A bird came along finally who, hey, look, Junior's got a little bit longer beak than the rest of us. Looks kind of funny, doesn't he? Oh, look, he can access these flowers that we have just looked at for many thousands of years, all of our species. Amazing to me. The question then arises, well, if that's all true, how has the human species evolved? Well, not very much, it appears. But we are at a stage in our evolution where if we don't move forward from our maladjusted place in life, we will become extinct. How? We'll just hate one another and kill one another off. That's how. The same way we evolved to get past the Neanderthals and the other species of humans that were around at one time. Why aren't they here now? Well, it wasn't some virus that killed them, I don't believe. More than likely, it was Homo sapiens that killed them off. Killed them and every other species in order to survive. She states this. She says that Jesus is like a guide for us, a teacher, an elder brother who can help us if we ask. He doesn't force himself onto our thoughts. He's knocking on the door, but we determine whether or not we open the door and let him in. If you ask Jesus into a situation, you're asking him to guide your thoughts about the situation, to help you let love replace fear, blessing replace blame, understanding replace judgment, and so forth. In some situations, this is not so difficult, but in others, extremely so. Having his guidance helps. His mind, joined with our mind, shines away the ego, and that's the miracle. This person that's interviewing says this: I believe that ultimately love wins, but I don't know how, if it's going to happen in my lifetime. And Marianne replies, this time we are in now is the symbolic 3 days between the crucifixion and the resurrection. Who knows how long that 3 days is going to be? From the perspective of Buddhism, it doesn't matter whether we live to see it. All that matters is the effort we make in the time we have here. All that matters is the effort that we make in the time we have here. She says early in the article that we are living through a time right now where it's like we're a part of a misjudged family, a misguided family. But we are coming to a place where we are so maladjusted that we can never go back if we are not constantly being aware of what it takes to evolve out of this darkness we are in right now. We are in a place of darkness. That requires a door, a rolling away of the rock. That requires from within us a strength and an attitude and a vision and a desire to move forward. It requires an unconditional love, which was taught to us so long ago by this one that we are celebrating today. You know, it really doesn't matter whether or not there was a risen Jesus out of a tomb. What matters is our idea of what we hold in belief, not only for him, but for ourselves. For you see, there is only one presence and one power and one mind. It appears that there are separate minds, each one of us, individual minds, but this is just an expression. We each are individualized expression of a one mind, a one power. It requires us going within to a deeper, darker, unpleasing, displeasing place for us to gain that. We can't just say la-di-da-di-da-di-da and he is risen and ain't that great. Oh yeah, the Christ within me. Yeah, okay, well, I'll just let that rise out of me once again. We're missing the point if we don't get into the nitty gritty of what's going on there, the point where we actually see, experience that darkness. It's in us all. It's not a place of within us that is necessarily scary or is out to get us. It's just a quiet place within us where nothing else is going on. You know, I've often stated, and I'm sure I read this someplace because I probably didn't have the original idea, that if you ever got to a place where God is, there wouldn't be a bunch of angels with harps and glorious music coming out and light and clouds and so forth. If you get to a place where God is, nothing is going on. No time, no place, nothing, because God has nothing if God is the fullness of life. God has nothing separate from God's self. Nothing is going on. There is no contention. There is no two ways of looking at things. There's only one. If we get to that point, we will achieve the stillness and the fullness of who God is and who we are. We each have but one mind. We each share our individual expressions into one mind. But we have to go into the darkness. We have to let go of the outer idea of who we think we are in order to go deeper and deeper and deeper to the place where we find out who we truly are. Then we can reemerge, changed, vitalized. You notice I don't say revitalized, vitalized. We come forth vitalized. And as we do this, then we become more the expressions of the Christ that we want to see in the world. Yes, we are living right now in a dark time. We are living in a time where we can evolve beyond this, or we can just no longer be as a species. Let's go beyond that. Let's hold for each of our individualized expressions. Let us hold the idea that something greater and grander is still to be expressed in the outer, because we felt it, expressed it, and embraced it in the inner. Take that forward with you. But first, go within deeper than you've ever gone before. Go beyond the thinking. Go beyond the feeling and the ideas and the memories, and go beyond that. Deeper, deeper, deeper. Then arise from that tomb. Arise and go forward. Not simply a story about something that happened or didn't happen to a man over 2,000 years ago, but something that happened to you today. On this day, go forward. On this day, go deeper within than you've ever been. That'll be my practice. Let's do this together. Amen.